Welcome in. Jesse Shule here from jesseshule.com. It's the Saturday morning college football kickoff show. And once again, I've got three special guests that have the cojones to bet against me in college football. We did this last week, and it was a ton of fun. It was probably more fun for the guys that were picking against me. We had Dan's Rants join us, and he was taking Notre Dame and over Duke, and I had Duke plus the 5.5. I was kind of liking where I was sitting there with a minute left, and it looked like they were going to line up for a game-winning field goal, Notre Dame was, but a touchdown and a 2-point conversion later, and I was down in the dumps. The Clemson game wasn't close. I prematurely predicted the demise of the Clemson Tigers, and I bought a little bit too much into the hype with Syracuse. Even though Syracuse had played them tough for the last 4 or 5 years, they did not come to play last week. And Kevin Thomas was on the right side of that game. And then Joey Tron. Joey Tron was with us last week. He was picking USC, and I was picking USC for the first half. I told Tron, I said, listen, man, USC ain't got no defense. You got to take them for the first half, otherwise you'll get burned with the backdoor cover. So at least I was right about that one thing. But this week, we got three new special guests. We got Joey Tron coming back from the Insiders Room. We got Rye Cape also from the Insiders Room. And we got a Pac-12 insider, Josh Viskey. The last time I was on a panel with Josh, we were joined by the Oregon State Beavers starting quarterback's younger brother. So Josh is fully tuned into the Pac-12. He's coming here to talk about the Oregon State Beavers and the California Golden Bears. Before I pull in those guys, let me remind you that you can get all my plays at jesseshule.com for 30 days, all access, NFL and college football, only $199. And why would you be interested in that? Well, perfect 10-0 this season with college football sides. We're hitting 70% for the season with college football overall. We're 5-1 with NFL the last 2 Sundays. We're feeling good heading into the weekend, and we're coming off a big year last year as well. So if you got $99 in your pocket, you come see me at jesseshule.com. And my guests, if you like what they have to say, you got their links in the description box of this video. Let's start pulling them in. Let's pull in Rye Cape from the Insiders Room. He's going to give us a play on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Welcome in, Rye.
Jesse, the Iceman, thanks for having me. Glad to be with the legend here. We were talking about WWE earlier before the show started, and I plan on being the legend killer.
All right. Well, go right ahead. You tell us. Well, before we go, I got to say, I put out these games earlier in the week, and I almost feel like I've already won because I got closing line value in each game, and this one I got the most closing line value. I bought in at 20, and we're now sitting at 17. When a line moves that much, does that bother you, Ryan?
Not when it moves towards the dog, because I like to fade the trendy dogs. So system-wise, that's good movement for me. Obviously, early in the week, I got the worst number. Hopefully, people are shopping around today to find the best number, but I'm confident in my pick.
All right. Well, why don't you tell us why you think the Buckeyes are going to win by 3 scores today?
Sweet. Yeah, so on paper, both of these teams look impressive. Let's start with a little history lesson. So Ohio State has won the last 8 against Maryland, covering 5 of those. Maryland has lost by an average of 52 points per game in its last 3 trips to Ohio Stadium. Ohio State is coming off a bye, so I think that's helpful as well. Is Maryland a better team than the recent ones? Of course they are. Is Tulai a good QB? Yes, he is. Has Maryland seen a team like Ohio State? They have not. Buckeyes have an elite defense. They only give up 8.5 points per game. They're especially tough against the pass, which is where Maryland's strength is. This season, they're allowing just 149 yards per game through the air. We did see this pass defense against Sam Hartman. They shut him down pretty well. I think they're going to be similar here, bottling up the receivers, and they'll get some pressure on Tagovailoa. I don't say his name well, but we all know who I'm talking about. I don't know if Maryland's defense is good. They haven't really played anyone. Towson, Charlotte, they don't do anything for me. Virginia, Michigan State, and Indiana do not either. None of these opposing teams' players would start for Ohio State. What I like about Ohio State here, they have a great running team. Maryland is not that great at stopping the run. I think Ohio State will lean on their run game with Travion Henderson. He was one of the best playmakers in the country a couple years ago. He was hurt last year. So this season, he hits 2 touchdown threshold twice in 4 games and leads the team in touchdowns with 5. The good run game opens the play action pass. McCord plays well out of the play action. He has plenty of weapons with Marvin Harrison Jr. He is healthy. I think he'll open up things on the outside for the ground game as well. And we'll see some mismatches in the passing game. Obviously, Bo Braid can't cover all the receivers. So I think these receivers will have a field day as well. A couple trends I like. Ohio State is 8-2 straight up, 6-4 ATS after a bye week under Ryan Day. Maryland is 1-7 straight up, 2-6 ATS as an underdog of 10.5 to 21 points under Mike Locksley. Biggest thing here is talent mismatch. I think it's going to be huge. I think Maryland gets exposed. Ohio State shows the committee why they should be in the college football playoffs. I'm taking the Ohio State Buckeyes today. Obviously, as I said earlier, shop for the best number. There were 17s out now, so that's probably the best you could get.
Well, Rye, it's quite obvious to me that you've done your homework and you delivered a pretty solid analysis. And I'm not going to really disagree with much of what you said. I will offer some counterpoints, though. And I'll tell you a bit of a story, and I'll offer you some advice. I'm a bit of a veteran in the handicapping industry, as you well know. And I was asked to do a show with Wayne Root, who's an even bigger veteran in the handicapping industry. It was a high production show. There was a bunch of famous people on the show. I was quite nervous. I got on there and I started talking about this Maryland team. And, I thought I knew the quarterback's name. And when I went to pronounce Tagovailoa, it just wouldn't come out. I just started choking on my own words. I couldn't come out with Tagovailoa. I've since practiced that. But for this show and for shows moving forward, when it comes to the Maryland quarterback, I'm going to prefer to call him Baby Tua, just because it's a hell of a lot easier to say. So a little bit of a piece of veteran advice there. And as far as your breakdown, I'm looking at it. I can't dispute most of what you said. The numbers are what they are. The talent disparity is what it is. We did see this line go up to 20 and then come back down sharply to 17. I'm suspecting the money that's coming in, that's putting it in that place, knows a thing or two about college football. And what I'm seeing Tagovailoa, it's his 5th year as a quarterback in college football. He's got a ton of experience. He's getting better every year. Maryland's getting better every year. And last year, these two teams played, and Ohio State won by 17 points on the road at Maryland. But, of course, that was C.J. Stroud, and the offense was humming with C.J. Stroud to a different tune than they've been going with Kyle McCord. And you look at Kyle McCord's stats. He's thrown for 1,055 yards, 6 touchdowns and an interception. Pretty pedestrian, but not Ohio State-worthy numbers. You got to admit, Ryan, that those are not Ohio State quarterback numbers. And even more alarming, there was a 60-point blowout against Western Kentucky. If you take away that, he's only got 3 touchdown passes in the other games. Tagovailoa, on the other hand, is thrown for almost 1,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks, 4 rushing touchdowns. The dude is scoring. He's moving the offense. What I see from Kyle McCord, if Kyle McCord doesn't have a breakout performance and show us something that he hasn't shown us to date, Ohio State could be in trouble here. Now, you did mention the bye week, and I will say that's a huge concern for me. I would love this bet even more if Ohio State wasn't coming off of a bye week. I am concerned about that, and that was a astute point that you made about the bye week. At the end of the day, I look at this like the best spot for Maryland to really go down to the wire with Ohio State. I think the experience at quarterback's going to play a role in that. I still think this Ohio State offense is trying to find itself. And I think the reason we've seen this line movement is a lot of people with a lot of money are seeing the same things I'm seeing. So that's where I stand, Rye. I wouldn't be surprised if this game lands around 14, 17 points. So as per the question from Daniel Allaire, any value at 16.5? I mean, I'll let you take that question, Rye.
Yeah, I think I don't hate the 16.5 at all. Especially at 120, I think you're getting a good price there. Try to avoid the hook, maybe a late field goal or late touchdown from Maryland. I actually think Maryland keeps it close in the first half. So I like them to cover first half. But I just think that Ohio State's going to pull away in the second half.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and breaking down the game, Rye. I think we're going to bring in Joey, and we'll send you backstage, and we'll bring you back for some Q&A later in the show. And ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in the one and only Joey Tron with his. Is that a cowboy hat, Joey? Because it kind of looks like a sombrero, or like you should be harvesting fruit in the field or something.
It's a little bit of a cowboy / explorer hat, but being on Kentucky, I got to be in blue and look like a little bit of a Southern guy, All
right. Well, this line is the one line that didn't move a whole lot from when you and I started discussing this game. I was able to get a 14 personally, and right now we're looking at mostly 14.5 with some 15s. But, it feels like the public was really all over Kentucky here. Why don't you tell me what you think? Why should we bet Kentucky, Joey?
Yeah, so first off, we started, like Rye said, we were talking about WWE before we got on. So today I'm going to be the Heartbreak Kid. I like Kentucky plus 14.5 to cover the spread on the road against Georgia. Kentucky has the 9th best rushing defense in college football. They're allowing an average of just 2.5 yards per rush, and that comes out to about 75 rushing yards per game. Conversely, Georgia's defense sits ranked 37th in rushing defense, allowing about 113 rushing yards per game. As we saw last week with Kentucky against Florida, Kentucky's a run-heavy defense, run-heavy offense. They put up approximately, They put up approximately 329 rushing yards against Florida. And when Georgia faced Auburn last week, Auburn put up 219 on them. I see Georgia's rush defense going to be a huge problem today. Kentucky pounds the ball, and they pound the ball really, really well. And I really think they're going to get to this Georgia defense. Like I said, they struggled last week against Auburn, and I think they're going to be met with the same exact feat this week when they're faced with Kentucky. Both teams come into this with a turnover margin of +2, which really shows their tendency to keep the ball and produce points. And I think this is a much closer spread than 14.5. And I know you said the public is somewhat on Kentucky in this one, but a lot of the money is coming into Kentucky. And that's another big reason why I really think Kentucky will cover this spread. Georgia really hasn't been covering numbers this year. They're 0-4-1 against this spread overall and 0-3-1 against the spread at home. Kentucky comes into this 4-1 against the spread overall this season, and they are 5-1 against the spread their last 6 road games. Looking at a little bit of head-to-head history between these two, this goes back pretty far, but since 1992, these teams are only separated by 1 game against the spread. Georgia is 16-15 against the spread against them. And if we look at it even a more closer look, over the last 3 seasons, Kentucky is 2-0 against the spread when facing Georgia. So with that being said, I really think Kentucky is just going to run the ball, burn that clock, and really give Georgia a tough time of going down the field with such limited time. So with that said, I really like Kentucky having the 2 touchdowns and that half-point hook.
Well, Joey, it sounds like you've done your homework as well. But let me ask you, are you familiar with this historical trend? Georgia's won 14 straight head-to-head, straight up. average margin of victory is 16 points in those games. Did you know that?
Personally, I did not know it was 16-point margin. However, I don't have Kentucky straight up. I got them against the spread.
Yeah, but you don't have 16 points, so that could come into play. Your play makes sense, and especially after what we saw with Kentucky running the ball down Florida's throat. But what we see one week doesn't necessarily carry over to the next, and evidence of that is that Florida team that Kentucky just beat up. They beat up Tennessee, and they beat them pretty thoroughly. So clearly, it wasn't the same Florida team that showed up in Lexington to play Kentucky as the team that ran all over Tennessee. It seems like a tough spot for me because Kentucky still undefeated. They're coming off that big win. It was a little too easy for them. It wasn't even really a fight. Georgia, on the other hand, there's rumblings. They're not as good. Their defense isn't as good. And, let's face it, the margin of victory, the fact that they found themselves in close games, you could interpret that as it's alarming, right? I did break it down, though, and let's see. Georgia outgained Auburn 420 total yards to 307 total yards. So while the game was close, the stats weren't as close as the final score would indicate. South Carolina, an even bigger disparity, 459 total yards to 309 total yards. I guess the key to success here is if Kentucky can come in and establish the run, they should do okay. Doing that on the road at Georgia is going to be tough. And if they don't have success right away, if they fall behind for whatever reason, which, Georgia is still Georgia to me. They still have the best tight end in the game. Their quarterback hasn't been bad. And speaking of bad quarterbacks, Devin Leary for Kentucky, in 2 SEC games this year, he's completing less than 50% of his passes, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. He looks horrible. If Kentucky needs to pass the ball in this game, they're going to be in trouble by the looks of things. I kind of think Georgia's been playing with their food a little bit. And this actually looks like a good spot for Georgia to get right to me. It is a big number. Granted, it is a big number. When I saw it, it was 14. Now it's 14. You can't get any 14s anymore. It's 14.5, 15. I see why you're playing it, Joey. I don't dislike your play, but my counter arguments are that I think perhaps those who are betting Kentucky today are leaning a little too heavily into what happened last week, and usually that's a recipe for disaster. I won't bother giving any more examples, but I'm going to answer Andrew's question. Jesse, you took Maryland right. I don't personally have a premium pick on this game, but I have a free pick on this game, and I personally like Maryland. I chose Maryland for this show because I thought that 20 points was way too much. So yeah, my pick is Maryland for this game, and Rye is on Ohio State. Of course, I was looking at 20 though. 16.5. I'd say that if you didn't get in at 19 or 18.5 or better, you missed the boat. You should probably, if you like Maryland, I think you missed the boat already, the way the line movement has occurred. But Joey, we're going to pull you out, and we're going to bring in our Pac-12 expert. Thank you for stopping by, Joey, and everybody out there can catch Joey in Joey's link to his premium picks page is in the link, the description box to the video. And in comes Josh Viscay, the Pac-12 insider. Woo! Josh, the last time I was on a show with
before we start, right? Before we start,
right.
Jesse. You might not like Jesse. You might not like me. You might not like Ryan. You might not like Joey. But you're going to learn to love us because we're the best thing going, Jesse.
The best there is, the best there ever was, the best there ever will be.
There you go. Hey, those guns are illegal in California, so watch out.
Yeah, well, you got a cowboy hat on. I thought we were in Texas.
No, man, I'm just mimicking Coach Prime, man. I love those inflated Coach Prime lines. But it was the other way, plus 22, easy money against USC, huh? How about that for easy money? Plus 22, Coach Prime. prime time, right? You know, and I hate it when I was in Vegas, right? You know, not to be racist or anything, but when I was in Vegas, every single African American person I met were putting all their money, their life savings on prime, betting blindly, prime. So those prime, that's what I call those prime African
I mean,
American.
when you go on YouTube and start talking negative stuff about Colorado, they get all over you. I mean, there's a lot of support for Coach Prime, and they don't like it when you pick against their team.
Oh yeah, they come at me. I'm like, hey, 40% of my DNA is from the Congo, man. Come on.
I got in trouble because I said it wasn't the US. Yeah, no, I think it was the USC game. I think it opened at whatever. They were plus.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. First that's all Riley does to win the first.
And the line just kept on moving. USC kept on becoming a bigger favorite. So you got the entire public is like, oh, Colorado, but the line just keeps on climbing, and I'm like, man, Colorado fans don't have any money, because if they did, the line wouldn't be moving like that, right?
Inequality, man, that's for real.
But we're not here to talk about Colorado. We're here to talk about Oregon State. And the last time I was talking to this man, we were doing a panel with the Oregon State starting quarterback's brother, and we were talking about Oregon State USC. But this time we're talking about Oregon State at Cal. Josh, I love Oregon State. I'm a big Oregon State fan. I'm a Pac-12 fan. I'm a Pac-12 junkie. I know you are too. I've already cashed a couple tickets on Oregon State so far this year, but I just think this is a tough spot for them. But you're here to tell me why you like them this week, so go ahead.
Hey, whenever you're in the Bay Area, all right, this is the bottom line. Whenever you are in the Bay Area, you always have to cover your back door, all right? Oregon State. Oregon State's going to cover that back door, the backdoor cover. And this is the reason why, man. I got my film. Look at these offensive linemen. They're the same guys from last year. They're bigger, right? They've been working out. So each guy on this offensive line is 10 to 20 pounds heavier than what you're seeing here. And that's our guy. He's a backup quarterback at TCU. We're going to get that one-on-one coverage against those Justin Wilcox cornerback that he's going to Justin Wilcox is going to play his guys one-on-one because he gets him in the NFL. Justin Wilcox, the Cal coach, gets about 2 guys in the NFL each year. Now, for me, wealth manager, nobody's ever gotten rich with technical analysis, right? That's what they sell on CNBC. People have gotten rich, like Tepper, the owner of Carolina, has gotten rich with selling technical analysis. What makes you money is fundamental analysis, and you look at corporate governance. Wilcox being a defensive guy, right? He's going to put it on the defense. The offensive coordinator for Cal Spadable has been fired from every single job he's ever had because he sucks. He must have pictures on people. So this is what is going to make us cover the 7 points. This offensive line is going to beat up, right? Those woke, liberal, Nancy Pelosi, pencil neck geek defensive linemen for Cal, all right? It's going to be a blood. And the other thing about it is the crowd. There's nobody going to be there. The only person that's going to be there is McCarthy, who just got fired. He's going to be depressed. The only guy in the stands who can't go to Fresno, where his district is from, he's going to have to go to the Cal football game to drown his sorrows. But it's not going to work. This offensive line is going to beat up those pencil neck geeks on the Cal defensive line. Wear them out in the fourth quarter to cover it. Probably the game's going to be 28-14. 28-14. Your Oregon State Beavers. Jesse.
All right, Josh. I like the analysis. Like I said, I like the Beavers too, man. And I'm not a big fan of what they got going on at Berkeley. I don't think I'm welcome at Berkeley, and I know you're not. But but that being said, as much as I like the Beavers, the time and place to bet the Beavers is at home, specifically as a home dog. They're just 3-10 against the spread in their last 13 as a road favorite. This line opened at 9.5. It's come down to 7.5. I think it's come down for a reason. I mean, the match, everything you said.
You're both going to end up winning, probably. You're probably winning.
Probably.
I'll probably 7 because I'll buy the half point. Make it.
But I look at this, and there's no doubt that Oregon State's the better team. There's no doubt that their offensive line's big and bad, and they can run the ball down their throat. But then again, you mentioned the offensive line. You mentioned that sort of mismatch, right? Auburn's offensive line just held up against Georgia, and they ran the ball down the national champion's throat, right? And this Cal team played a game against Georgia, a game against Auburn, and it was 14-10, right?
Auburn had a bunch of transfers. Actually, Cal should have won that game. I mean, Auburn, all they care about is SEC games. They were playing vanilla. They were playing transfers. They were playing fourth string, and Cal still didn't pull out the victory when they I mean,
Cal's an ugly team. Everything about them is ugly. But the thing is, there's a certain amount of ugly that just keeps them in games.
The feet from the jaws of victory against Auburn. They're a bunch of losers. They're a bunch of woke.
they are. And I think they're going to lose this game too. I just don't think they're going to lose this game by more than 8 points.
You're going to give up.
And under Wilcox, they're 17-7 against the spread in their last 24 as a dog. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that. All I know is they've been in every game they played so far. Hold the Washington game, and actually that was a pretty good showing against a Washington team that's lighting up everybody. So, yeah, I mean, I like your take, Josh. I do.
Because everybody's afraid to debate. All right, everybody's so woke and so weak and so afraid, and Jesse is not afraid to debate. Why? Because Jesse's a winner, man.
Woo! Woo! Sun's out, guns out, baby. No, I agree with that statement for sure. But yeah, no, I like the Beavs, but I think it's too many points this week, so I'm taking Cal. I personally booked this at 9.5. So now it's down to 7.5. Maybe it comes down to those 2 points. But Josh, let's bring everybody else back on and let's start fielding questions from our viewers. All right, boys. So Jesse Schul says even Josh's dog knows the Bears are going to cover. I heard the dog in the background. Woo, 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 California.
Yeah, it's Aiden. He's always bark. He's always ready to go for college football. That's his bark.
Temple plus 14 as a home dog. Andrew Schrader. Frank Harris is back for UTSA. Coming into the season, UTSA was supposed to be a powerhouse. UTSA was probably supposed to be undefeated right now. The fact that they've sucked as much as they've sucked is anomalous. I believe anomalous is a word. Right. Anybody want to debate me on whether anomalous is a word?
We'll put it in the dictionary.
Anyways, so I look at their poor performance, and Frank Harris missed 2 games with an injury. So now Frank Harris is back, and I ask myself the question, did they suck because their quarterback was playing hurt? And I can't answer that for you, but I can hypothesize that may have been the case. And I can say that a team that was so good a year ago and has everybody's back for UTSA. All their star players are back from a team that was beating everybody last year. Now they're at.
I mean, Stan Drayton, all right? Stan Drayton is a straight-up criminal. He should be locked up. He should be in jail. He's an Urban Meyer guy. He was on the Ohio State Urban Meyer. They had all the criminals. He recruited Cam Newton. Cam Newton was raping girls in college where he was stealing laptops. So you're going to put plus 14 on Sam Drayton going against Coach Trailer from UTSA with a quarterback coming back trying to save their season? Plus 14, you would be nuts to do that. And I would never put money on a criminal such as Sam Drayton.
I've got a question for you, Josh. Is that Cam Newton and Jameis Winston? Or did you get the 2 mixed up, or are they both just doing that?
Sam Drayton was on Urban Meyer's staff when he recruited Cam Newton and several serial killers on that Florida team. Aaron Hernandez, serial killer. Joyner, serial killer. He recruited Ezekiel Elliott and all those people paying him money when it was illegal. There was no NIL back in the day. He comes there with a bag of cash. He's not a great recruiter. What he is a great bagman. He would be great for the mafia, but not to put plus 14 against Coach Trailer. Coach Trailer does more with less. The only reason Coach Trailer is not a head coach of Texas was because he was screwing the secretary at the high school. but he got the job at UTSA and he's doing good. Right?
Josh knows all the dirty secrets. Well, I don't want to get too much off track here with that, but I guess to answer Adam's question or Andrew's question, I look at Temple as a team that can't play defense, and this UTSA offense has looked like crap lately. Right. But they got their quarterback back, and this could be a dangerous game where they could get right and start slinging the ball around the field and really pile.
There should be weather in this game. It's expected heavy rain from 2 to 4 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I wouldn't. When there's criminal behavior involved, I tend to have a skeptical eye on what's going down.
Isaiah Williams is he's rolling with Texas today. Does anybody? I'm assuming we all have picks on this game. Anybody want to talk about it? Anybody got anything to say about the Red River rivalry?
Steve Sarkisian, again, an alcoholic, right? He's in recovery, right?
Damn him all to hell.
Brent Venables has a lot to prove. Coach Prime came at him and said he doesn't know how to drive a Porsche. This is the biggest game for Oklahoma. Coach Sarkisian always gets out-coached in big games. You say, oh, he beat Alabama. No, it's that Alabama game plan been going on for a year. Coach Flood is the one who came up with the Alabama game plan against Oklahoma. Bobby Stoops is the one coming up with the game plan. Believe me, Brent Venables is nothing but a glorified bag man. He's just dumb, right? He's Forrest Gump, all right? That's Brent Venables, Forrest Gump. And you got to remember, too, Dabo Swinney's assistants, they're 30% winning percentage, less against the spread. But this is a big game, like the Alabama game where Texas was all summer game planning. Oklahoma was game planning all games. So they're not going to win, but they're going to cover maybe 3 points. So if you're getting, 5.5, 6, go with Boomer Sooner.
I'm going to have to disagree. I mean, I see it. I had Texas plus 7.5 at Alabama, and I said they were going to win outright. So it's not like I was I think one of the things is when a team records a win like that, Texas winning at Alabama, if you weren't expecting it, you kind of want to write it off. But if you were expecting it, you don't feel as much as if you that was an anomaly, right? Like, oh, they got lucky to do that. I'm not going to say they got lucky because I said they were going to do it. And now they're playing Oklahoma, and I mean, yeah, it's a revenge spot. Yeah, Oklahoma's going to be better than they were last year. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel's a pretty good quarterback, but what I've seen from Oklahoma throughout the entire Lincoln Riley era, as well as the Brett Venables era, it's carried over, is when they face top 10 teams, elite teams with good defenses, they just crumble. They're all offense. They're one dimensional. And there's a lot of talk that Oklahoma's defense is better this year. Well, I guess.
Yeah, that's why Stoops hired the private detectives to look to the trash.
This is the game we'll find out, I guess, right? Like, we're certainly not finding out with the schedule they've played so far.
Yeah, this isn't a fair game. You got boosters getting private detectives. We got the inside. There's a few things I can't disclose. Adam Glick on our Twitter. I'll tag all you guys. Adam Glick is the beat writer for Texas. Off the record stuff that he was able to share with us leads me to believe, based on the direct evidence, that Oklahoma should cover in this situation.
Yeah, I think Texas wins by double digits here. Quinn Ewers is doing phenomenal. He's got a rating of 164.7. He has a 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I think Texas blows this out of the water today.
Yeah, Texas has a great offensive line, too. I understand that Oklahoma has one of the best defenses in the league, but they're going to have trouble getting to Ewers.
I like the corporate governance, too, because Sarkisian, even though Coach Flood is there, Sarkisian is insisting on calling the plays. Why is Sarkisian insisting on calling the plays? Because he's in recovery, he's an alcoholic, and he has to keep his mind drinking or else he's going to go out drinking or chasing skirt. Brent Venables is a good Christian man, but he's staying away from all this. Coach Stoops is taking over this. The private detectives are taking over this. And I like Stoops and his private detectives going one-on-one with Sarkisian. You can throw all the statistics out the window in this case because it is a rivalry game. where the Oklahoma got beat last year. Now, with that being said, I love the second half line. Whoever's behind in the second half, go bet on them because you're going to do the adjustments in the other half. So that's one way you cover your ass and you win anyways. Because
I like that call, Josh. You guys notice that every time Josh says alcoholic, I have a drink.
Drink. I'm not an alcoholic. I just drink early.
Somebody else asked about the strength of schedule. Let me pull that up. Where is it? Strength of schedule.
Well, this game is an island, right? I remember when my guys used to play back in the day with Florida State, Bobby Bowden against Steve Spurrier. When it's a rivalry game, they put in offensive schemes just for this game. They put defensive schemes just for this game. So all the other games before are irrelevant. So that's why the second half line is very important because who beat who, kind of a pride thing with the new schemes in the first half. Stoops is in the box. You have special guys in the box. For Oklahoma, it's going to be Stoops. For Texas, it's going to be, John Robinson or a USC guy, an old guy who's going to come up with the adjustments. Now, people, that's why you put it on mute, right? When you're watching games, because the analysts have absolutely no idea what they are talking about. There's no such thing. It's a myth. Halftime adjustments. There's no such thing as a halftime adjustment. Adjustments are done during the game all the time. Now, what happens at halftime is you grab a guy by the helmet. There's no cameras around. You slap him around, all right? And you say, listen. And the guy listens, and then he's able to execute, right? So they're paying more attention at halftime. The adjustments have been done during the game. So you're going to pay to the adjustments that Stoops or the old man Sarkisian is having in the second half, and those guys are good, and they're there for a reason, right? So that's why you'll see a totally different team in the second half with the adjustments of the new schemes on offensive defense. Both sides have thrown on each other. They're not – everybody's seeing the tape. They're not going to do the same thing they did in the previous games. That's why
I think we're all familiar with the Red River rivalry, and if you've watched this game –
Yeah, Adam Gleck's a veteran. He's been following me for 6 years. I love the kid, all right, from the Mighty 1090 in San Diego. He's the beat writer for Texas. He'll give you insight, put money in our pockets. Adam Gleck.
Sounds good. Good. But for those of us that have been watching the Red River rivalry over the years, I think we all can agree that if one team's down 20 at halftime, watch out because they're gonna come back and make a game of it. That certainly seems plausible to me.
At 100 degrees there, if it's 100 degrees, 80% humidity, global warming game, look for that thing to go over because all the defensive guys are going to be winded in the fourth quarter. Rivalry game, all this emotion, all this jumping up and down. It's like, what are you doing jumping up and down in 100-degree weather? Calm down. You're going to need that energy in the fourth quarter. So that's something you got to watch. And for Oklahoma,
just going to address this comment from Daniel regarding strength of schedule for Maryland and Ohio State. And I mean, yeah, that's something to consider, Daniel. But I think that's baked into the line where you have at one point it was a 20-point line. That's how the line gets to that spot.
Yeah, you got to differentiate between a blue blood and a developmental program, right? Ohio State's blue blood, so the schedule does not matter, right? They're supposed to beat everybody. A team like Maryland is a developmental team, and then you have to say, okay, can this coach develop players? Loxley has not proven he can develop anything. The only thing he's proven is that he can get fired from a program for screwing the secretaries like he did in New Mexico. And he had to be rehabilitated by Nick Saban in Alabama. So he hasn't proven anything at all. His staff against Ohio State.
I touched on it a little bit about Ohio State's strength of schedule, too. I think if you take away the Western Kentucky game that they won by 60, and then you just play with the remaining games, and the numbers don't look that favorable for Ohio State.
I mean, both teams also played Indiana. Obviously, Ohio State, it was their first game. They barely won. Maryland crushed them. But I have a question for you. If Maryland plays Kentucky on a neutral field, what are you making that line?
Right now this week, they're both undefeated, right?
Mm-hmm. Kentucky minus 7.
I agree.
Yeah, I was
Kentucky
gonna
not a touchdown.
say six. I was gonna say 6.5. I'd give it 6.5.
All right.
But
I think
I'd
that's
probably
why.
take. I might take Maryland. I wouldn't bet. I don't like betting on teams that don't have a quarterback.
The strength of schedule is relevant when you come to Maryland. They play Townsend, right? African American game. They're both coaches in the African American Coaches Association. So you have to play Townsend in Baltimore. Charlotte's the developmental team. They're going to be good later. They have the business guy. He comes from my world, wealth management world. He makes friends with the Harbaughs. With that contract with the Harbaughs that I actually have direct evidence involved. You get a whole life policy so you don't pay taxes. He's the head coach now at Charlotte. He was in a Zoom meeting 5 years ago with me. He was in a Zoom meeting. We're doing wealth management on Harbaugh's contract. Next thing you know, the next year he's on Harbaugh's staff. And now he's the head coach of Charlotte, who Maryland played. Virginia, again, right? A Dabo Sweeney disciple. Dabo Sweeney's win 20% of their games. Right, I had to suffer with their coach at USF, Tony Franklin over here at Virginia, so it's a complete joke. And then Michigan State, their coach is masturbating, right, with the lady he brings in, right? He's making $9 million a year, and he's masturbating with the lady they brought in because his players are raping girls on campus. You can't make
They just released the tapes on the Michigan State coach. Sounds like he was getting extorted.
So like the last two teams Maryland has played, the coach has gotten fired. Coach Allen, who I love Coach Allen from his days at USF when he was the defensive coordinator. And I was the academic advisor, believe it or not. He would call me late at night to pick up guys from jail and keep it away from the press. Coach Allen. He gets fired over here at Indiana. He's a head coach at Indiana, and now they're going to play Ohio State at the Big House. Doesn't look good. Loxley's a joke, right? Some guys get up on hype. He's a good recruiter. Is he really a good recruiter? He comes in there with a bag of money, right? I have to make business do something. I don't have to bribe people. I have to convince them of the value I can provide. These guys can just give them money, right? So I'm very skeptical of Coach Loxley in this situation. And the strength of schedule, they haven't played anybody, right? Half the coaches they played have been fired. And then Townsend is a Division II school, right? So, and then Franklin, Dabo Sweeney's assistants have a 20% winning percentage. So this is a very, very suspect Maryland schedule here.
All right, boys, let's talk Alabama, Texas A&M before we get out of here. One more game. We'll get your opinions, and then we'll call it a day. Starting with you, Joey, what do you think? Alabama, Texas A&M.
I like Alabama in this one. I think this is a really good spot for Alabama. Texas has really woken up since Alabama has really woken up since their loss to Texas. And I just see a fire underneath Nick Saban's ass. And I think he's going to go out there. And I think he's going to play big brother here. And I think Alabama's going to roll Texas A&M today.
Rye, what do you think?
I don't know. I've been back and forth on this game all week, but my biggest thing is how often do you get a Nick Saban team at minus 120? So I'll take that value.
I mean, that's the thing, right? To me, it actually looks like a pretty good spot for Texas A&M. There's a lot of things saying Texas A&M, but at the end of the day, do you want to be the fool? How stupid are you going to feel if you bet Texas A&M and Alabama crushes them, and you're like,
I'm in Texas A&M, and I'm going to ask you guys a question. I was sitting there in 2019 drinking with an Alabama booster who gives $1 million a year to Alabama. He says, Josh, and I asked Melissa this question on my college podcast. You can see her answer, sweet Melissa, gorgeous Melissa, because it's all a behavioral thing. I'll ask you guys this, right? What is, some people call him Dumbo Fisher. I call him Jimbo Fisher. What is Coach Fisher talking about here? The Alabama visitor says, Josh, all of Satan's kids, right, Coach Saban, all of Satan's kids are adopted, Josh, saying that he's gay. So a gay man cannot coach in the SEC. He'll get kicked out of the Bible Belt. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Then Coach Dumbo Fisher or Coach Jimbo Fisher says, listen, after Satan said something about his NIL, he said, listen, You say one more thing about my NIL, I'm going to disclose things that might shut down your career that I don't even like, I don't even want to know, but I'll say it. What's he talking about? Right? Is Satan gay? Dumbo Fisher knows about it, has pictures, has video. Is he going to end Coach's career? Does he even have to go 100% in this game? For those and many other reasons, it's not the house's money. It's my money. So for the last 2 years, Texas A&M has covered for me, put money in my bank account. So it's not the house's money. So with my money, I'm going Texas A&M all day, every day. Fuck Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Fuck Roll Tide.
All right. So again, though, I mean, yeah, I can see, and there was also a rumor floating around all week about Milroe being injured with a hamstring injury. This was actually it almost looked like it's like a conspiracy. It's like a conspiracy theory, right? Like potentially planted information, like Alabama's putting that information out there to put fake news out there. I mean, it's really tough to wrap your head around. But I know that Saban did an interview on yesterday, and he was asked directly, like, what's with this rumor about Milroe and the hamstring injury? And he just deflected. He refused, point blank, refused to answer, started talking about something else.
I got Coach O on the phone. Coach O, we got you live. What do you want to say, Coach O?
Yes, sir. We're going to beat their ass. We recruiting. We're going to beat their ass every time they see us. Fuck you.
Woo! Fuck you, Roll Tide.
Woo! So after seeing this interview with Saban and after hypothesizing that this looks like a fake misinformation just being planted, I'm flipping through Twitter today, and I see from the Red River rivalry a few years back when Mike Leach was with Oklahoma, right. he wrote up a call sheet and told one of his players to accidentally drop it as he's running by the Texas bench. And of course, the Texas coaching staff picks it up, and they've got all their plays and everything, their entire game plan. They're like, rubbing their hands together, but it was all fake misinformation intended to distract them. And it worked. And would I put that past Nick Saban? Absolutely not.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know about this game because both coaches this week refrained from that, right? So, guys, tell me, what information does Dumbo have or Jimbo have that he's not disclosing, that if he does disclose, will end Coach Satan's career? What is it?
I don't think he's disclosing shit. Jimbo Fisher is 1-5 against Saban, soon to be 1-6. He can be gay, straight. I don't care. Nick Saban's one of the best coaches in the SEC, and he's gonna roll Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, I'm with Joey. Woo!
Roll Tide, baby.
Roll Tide, roll. I mean, it's actually it does look like a really dangerous spot for the Tide, but you're gonna have to give me more than 2 points to bet against them. I mean, that's just the way it's gonna fucking be. I'm not betting against Alabama unless you give me more than 2 points.
Yeah, I got +3 earlier in the week, so I jumped on it right away.
I did bet on Texas. I was getting 7.5 points. If I was getting 2 points, I wouldn't have bet on Texas. There's no way.
And then the game's in Cal Field, right? The Texas A&M alumni have $36 billion with a B in the endowment, so they have a lot of cash. You know, if you ever go to the game, you see the refs come in with a red duffel bag, and then they're leading with a white duffel bag. What's in the duffel bag, guys? Why are they different colors in those duffel bags? Watch out the back judge in this game, and watch out for the holding penalty on an 80-yard touchdown around Alabama. 80-yard touchdown, Oklahoma. Wait, there's a late flag holding on Alabama. Kyle Field. And the NFL, illegal use of the hands, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down. But I digress.
Do you do any NASCAR, Josh?
NASCAR, no.
Yeah, man. I gotta get you on my show.
And my wife did a whole story to try to take us hostage. Whole story.
Yeah, you guys hit each other up on Twitter, and like I said, the links are in the description box for all three of the guests today. We got Josh Viskey, the Pac-12 insider. We got Joey Tron, the cowboy that looks like he's more like a farmer. And we got the legendary Rye Cape from Insider's Room, whose beard game is strong.
A lot of fun to be had, boys.
But it's half an hour before kickoff, boys. I want to get my drank on. I'm sure you guys do too. I want to thank you all for joining me. I would like to wish you luck, but I guess I'll say this: good luck, unless you're against me. All right, boys. I'm pulling the plug. Have a good day.
Get some tickets.